My name is Rosanne Foust, and I'm the president and CEO of the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, better known as SAMCEDA. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to our first ever Industry Roundtable series. We will be hearing from representatives from our telecommunications, broadband, and connectivity industries. We are really excited to share this industry series with our SAMCEDA members and key community partners. We have four amazing individuals with us here today. We have Kamei, External Affairs Area Manager for AT&T. We have Zenia Zaveri, Vice President of External Affairs with Comcast. We have Rochelle Swanson, Senior External Affairs Manager for Crown Castle. We have Christine Keener, Director, Government and Community Affairs for Verizon. Each of our representatives will be sharing information about their particular company/organization. And then I have a few questions for our panelists, and then we will open it up to our SAMCEDA members and partners. This industry series is the beginning of what we hope to see as many different industries that represent the SAMCEDA membership showcased in our roundtable. We are so appreciative of our companies that are joining us today, and I'm going to kick it over to Kamei with AT&T. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much, Roseanne and SAMCEDA, for the invitation to join today to talk a little bit about what we do at AT&T. As was mentioned, my name is Kamei, and so not only do I do external affairs for San Mateo County, I also do it for Santa Clara County. My big challenge today is to talk about 145 plus years in 5 minutes, so wish me luck. Next slide. So just really high level, I thought I'd start out talking about AT&T, who we are. As I said, we're celebrate 145 plus years. We trace our origins back to Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor, scientist, and engineer, who's credited with patenting the telephone. And recently, coming at the start of the pandemic, we were able to contribute $5 billion to bridging the digital divide. I think our industry really shifted and had to meet the need that was placed upon us during that time. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. We cover more than 99% of the United States population. And we'll go to the next slide. So what I really like about our company is we talk about opening the door to greater possibility. And we're doing that in 3 different buckets. So one of them is based off of our AT&T fiber, wanting to make sure that people have safe, reliable connectivity. And we're seeing the industry as well as our federal, state, and local governments looking for that. So we're moving to fiber-based connectivity, really trying to meet the needs of our wireless and nationwide 5G. It's really interesting to think about how many people do not have a landline anymore. Everything is based off of wireless. So we are working to make sure that we're meeting that need. And then FirstNet, we're empowering our public safety individuals on our platform. As a result of the unfortunate events of 9/11, we AT&T were awarded a FirstNet contract, and that's on what's called Band 14, and making sure that our public safety officials, first responders, as well as our government entities have a line completely dedicated to them to make sure that they can answer the call and get connected. Next slide. Another thing we're trying to do, so talking about expanding access. So we are committing over $145 billion in our infrastructure across the country. I think one of the things that's been changing in our industry is the opportunities for public-private partnerships. And some exciting news is that AT&T applied for some grants through the CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, and we were recently selected in August as the provider to bring fiber into 3 different counties San Bernardino, Riverside, and into San Mateo County. So I will drop into the chat and share with Rosanne a little bit more about where we'll be going. We actually work directly with the county as well as several cities to make sure that we put forward a project that was based on the areas where people were seeing the digital divide most greatly. Next slide. So another thing we're trying to do is encourage adoption. So two of the programs we're trying to support through our corporate social responsibility is our support of digital literacy programs. We are partnering with libraries all across the country for free access to, I would say, like a whole suite of different options, and that's for youth all the way into adulthood. It includes workforce training as well. And it's in multiple languages. So no matter what the need is, we're trying to make sure that people are getting that. The next is our device distribution. So we also know that it's not just about getting people connected, it's to make sure that they have a device to do so more than just their phone. And we have worked closely with many of you to make sure that we are distributing laptop devices through our nonprofit partnerships in San Mateo County. Next slide. And I wanted to end on something else that's very exciting from the AT&T front. We have connected learning centers that we have worked on opening up all across the country. We have opened over 30, and we're looking to open one in San Mateo County coming soon. Again, that's based off of direct input. Once that is more officially announced, I'll be able to share that location. But we have been partnering with Boys and Girls Clubs of America to partner with them to make sure that people can go to their centers and have high quality fiber connection at their site. So this is just a brief snapshot of what we're doing. It's a challenge to talk about in 5 minutes, but look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Zenia Zaveri with Comcast.
Hi, thanks, Rosanne, and thank you to SAMCEDA. I'm Zenia Zaveri. I lead external affairs for California and Comcast, and I thought I would share today just a little bit about our community engagement efforts in California, and then a little bit of an update on our network innovation through Xfinity. So Project Up is our commitment to advancing digital equity, and it's $1 billion commitment over 10 years to reach millions of people with the objective of really opening the door for the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs. And there are 3 prongs to that. We'll talk about the volunteer part, Team Up, in a minute, but we also have lift zones where we work with beloved community partners to stand up internet access points with high-speed connections. And then we sponsor digital innovation among small businesses through our program, Comcast Rise. On the next slide, you'll see that volunteerism is near and dear to our heart, and our team members really love to get involved in the community. You'll see some pictures below of us participating in a local Veterans Day parade and other volunteer events. We also offer matching donations so that team members can support the causes they believe in and get a little extra boost. And we focus on local awareness around issues that are specific to the communities where we live and work too. On the next slide, I thought I'd talk a little bit about our work in California. So in the last 3 years, we've invested $130 million in cash and in-kind donations here in California. And in San Mateo County, we're proud sponsors of SAMCEDA. Also, the Chamber San Mateo, we have a lift zone in the PAL Center in San Mateo County, and have participated in a variety of events, including Veterans Day, which is a really important cause that Comcast supports. So we're proud to be sponsors of the San Mateo Luncheon. And then on our network innovation side, we've invested about $4 billion in infrastructure across California over the last few years. The value of that is faster speeds, lower latency, Wi-Fi coverage, and all of the extreme, all of the extreme uses like entertainment and gaming being as seamless as possible. In San Mateo County, we're going to have our next generation network up and running by the end of next year. And then, aside from the wonders of fast speeds, just wanted to highlight that we're committed to cybersecurity through many of our products and keeping folks safe, and proud to introduce our new storm-ready Wi-Fi, which gets you access to the internet even when the power is out. And for those of us that have been through some of the difficult times here and across the country, that really goes a long way to being connected when you need it the most. Here's a snapshot of Comcast world across our varying programming, our connectivity, our entertainment platforms. And if we look at the next slide, we can talk about a couple of the cultural moments that we're really proud of in the last year. Certainly excited to support the Olympics. Wicked is coming up, and if you happen to be a Peacock subscriber and want to check out a really special program tomorrow, check it out. But I think more broadly, our connection to Universal Studios, our connection to NBC enables us to come up with creative ways to engage and participate in the community in ways that matter, in ways that are interesting and a little bit different. And so wanted to highlight that. And then, as we think about those kinds of partnerships on the next slide, we've been involved with businesses and community organizations over a long period of time and are happy to work together to bring in guest speakers from our senior leadership to talk on a topic that might be of interest. One of the things that's new and exciting at Comcast is an accelerator program for startups that are interested in applying AI to their businesses. Our Comcast business team is working with small, medium, large businesses all across California to deliver them solutions. And we love to partner together to co-host events that maybe bring in some of the other brands from across the Comcast universe and figure out how do we get folks engaged with the value of connectivity and digital equity. And so we would love to team up. This is our list of local contacts, so feel free to reach out to me or any one of our team members if you have an idea and would like to connect.
Now I'm turning it over to Rochelle Swanson at Crown Castle.
Thank you. Hi, Rochelle Swanson, Senior External Affairs Manager for Crown Castle. I'm going to take a little bit different bend, so I will give you an idea compared to the other companies. We're babies, so we've been around for about 30 years. But we're closing out on 100,000 miles of fiber across the country, 115 small cells, either in the pipeline or under contract, or on the near horizon, over 40,000 towers, and over 700 municipalities. And that's probably on the low end. What's very different about Crown, and why often people don't know, is that they know our customers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, as well as over 200 government, quasi-government entities within California, as well as, and that includes a lot of schools and libraries. And then we also have enterprise fiber supports hospitals as well as local businesses. And so that is our nationwide footprint. Next slide. So, but here's where we are in California. And I have the joy of, in my role as Senior External Affairs Manager, I manage all the local relationships and lead on state policy. So everything from Santa Clara County over to the Yosemite Valley, north to the Oregon border. And so you won't see a team slide. If y'all need anything, it's me. And then I'm the conduit within the company. And so I very much enjoy being able to have those relationships with SAMCEDA and San Mateo Chamber, as well as all of our local electeds, especially as a former elected. It's fun to be able to deploy broadband. I think COVID made it clear to everybody. But as you can see here in California, we still have quite a bit of an investment. You can see that we are engaged in almost all the cities that are here. And we do have employees up and down the state with a little bit bigger footprint in Southern California. So as I mentioned before, what really Crown is specialized is it's the connection part of it, because we aren't typically a service provider. And so we're the behind the scenes. So we support FirstNet. We support redundancy and public safety. We have towers, we have rooftops, we have small cells. That's a lot of what we're building out. And like I'd mentioned before, we also connect a lot of hospitals. Can you go to the next slide, please? What's key, this will show you kind of what a footprint would look like in any given city of where Crown is. So we own all that backbone. What a lot of people don't know, that when we come into a community for one of our carrier partners like Verizon, we also bring in a lot of dark fiber, actually quite a bit of it. And that's really key about connecting the community. So we're the 4th largest E-rate in the company, which means that is a special rate that school districts and libraries get. And so often when we come in and we build out a small cell network, we also have fiber that is available to the small business person, to a large data center. It's available, like I said, to both the public and quasi-public. And that becomes really key because of just the sheer capital cost, especially if you're like a mid-sized company or a small-sized company. We're bringing in backbone. So getting that fiber from our pole, say typically in the right-of-way on the side of the street, right within to the local business, is a great way to capitalize it. And even though we do have partnerships with our big carriers, we also have mom and pops. I'm supporting Unwired, which is a very small rural provider like up in Glenn County. So we really have the whole continuum of service providers that we work with to bring them to market. Next slide. So not only do we invest in our communities, we do Connected by Good is where we invest into local communities. So we have invested into local women's and support centers in San Mateo. We invest in Boys and Girls Club. And then we also do a lot of holiday parties, gift giving. We are partnering right now with the San Mateo County Firefighter Foundation in the way that they do outreach to the community and support local needs. But another place that we invest outside of that is more behind the scenes is innovation and technology and leading on policy. Next slide. So as I mentioned, I'm also point for state legislation. So a big key of the things here, and I'll quickly talk about them, why it's important. Investing in good policy means that both public and private dollars makes broadband go a lot further. And so some of the legislation that we've carried over the last 6 years has been adopting a microtrenching standard statewide so that carrier partners and ourselves did not need to go from city to city. And this is a good, clear standard. We work very closely with local government. So this in no way was just, foisting a standard. This was a couple of years of a lot of close conversations and collaboration to get to a good landing spot. Very similar to with batch permitting, really enabling working with local government on how can we come to an agreement on timing so that all, especially from the federal state funding, be able to move through, which is another reason we were supported by local government, because everybody understands BEAD funding that's coming. And congratulations, Ellen, again, on the rewards that you guys have gotten for your investments. It's so incredibly important to be able to stretch those dollars out. And then, of course, we had an undergrounding bill and deemed approved. And all of these together are really about encouraging investment, because that is really clear, because it really is a public-private partnership. Even when it's not an official partnership, it is unofficial when our local government partners work with us to be able to do deployments and to bring connectivity into the communities. Next slide. So one of the biggest things that we've done that was really exciting is an investment in our fiber deployment. And one of the keys that we've taken away over many years working in the right-of-way is how do we take typical fiber deployment and make it safer, simpler, faster, and greener, just like he says. These are 4 main categories of really looking at how do we come in. I think a lot of people think of like a trench in the street and you've got the big steel covering it. And a lot of people, they don't realizing that's connecting their phone or their computer. They just know that it's really frustrating. So we have a research campus in Austin, Texas, and have invested ways, how do we have a lighter footprint in our communities? And with supporting our businesses that are also local, because I think everybody here who owns a business can understand when you don't have the road closed in front of you, it makes life a lot easier. Next slide, please. So what we've partnered in this particular deployment is with Corning. I think a lot of people know who Corning is. They're the largest fiber producer, but they're also well known too for porcelain dishes back in the day. And with DS Brown, and this is important that while we're 30 years old, they are 130 years old. And they have worked with us to be able to bring a new technology that works with the streetscape. That means that we can basically come in, and this is the cover for our fiber. Next slide, please. So we call this our pathway creation machine. And if you're looking there to the pictures there on the bottom, that is what is left in the roadway. To put it into perspective, this is what it is. You can see my finger. I'm not that big of a person. That's how big it is. This is, so think about this in your street instead of 2 by 3 or even 2 to 3 inches. So we take this machine that is proprietary to Crown right now, and that is a picture actually at our research campus in Austin. And we go and make a very small cut, about 1.5 inches into the street, and we put in fiber, which is the size of this just typical ballpoint pen. And we have hundreds of strands in there for connectivity. Well, they're diffracted so that they end up being like hundreds of strands, but typically, a little over 70. And then it enables us to move it. So it looks like, as you can see, kind of looks like a street sweeper. That's how fast it moves. And that's about the noise of it, which, especially when we're going through residential neighborhoods and downtowns, it has been, very well received just because it enables us to come through very quickly and have minimal disruption. Next slide, please. So here is a cross section so you can truly see what the difference is. As you can see, we had to blow that way up so you could see what traditional trenching is like. And so we're working with our local partners to take our micro trenching standard and really, this is kind of like mini micro, and bringing this in so that we can come in and get out. To put as an example, we did a very big project for one of our carrier partners here in Northern California. And what typically would have taken a couple of years, in 18 months, we were in and out, 108 nodes, almost 50 miles of fiber, like really just, 13 miles of fiber, an incredible feat. And it was because of having this rapid technology. The other piece that's critical here, because Crown Castle is very proud of our standards of how we are on the environment, is that because it's in the roadway, that is all recyclable. So there's just typical yellow bags that are filled up with the backfill, and we take that to a local asphalt company. Next. So this, as you can see it, that play button unfortunately won't work, but that's okay. This is a road bike. So the thinnest tires you can imagine on a bike, that gives you another perspective. The other pictures are pictures of Dallas-Fort Worth, as well as a tarmac. So this same technology is used in the Air Force tarmacs, as well as airports and bridges. And now they spent 4 years perfecting it for roadways. And so as you see that yellow stripe there on the side of the road, to kind of give you an idea just how narrow and low impact this is. Because, streets are a city's typical biggest investment. And in some communities, it's upwards of $1 million a mile. So it's very critical, as much as we have to bring broadband in, how do we protect the largest investment that a community makes? And so really finding ways to kind of imagine also minimizing strikes, which can also cause some frustration. Next slide, please. So regionally, we are investing in the peninsula. Next slide. So these are the cities, and I realize not all of them are in San Mateo County, but it is all connected because we use the fiber hubs to bring them together. We're also very excited that we are doing upgrades along Highway 1 through the southern part of San Mateo County. I participate in CRISPR, and I am just appreciative how the entire county works together to make broadband a priority. I think that is why you do see the investment, and why you have these providers here today, is that welcoming mindset of how important it is and critical to be able to connect them. But as much as moving pictures are fun, I think it'd be more fun to be able to see the video. This was taken in Milpitas in October, where we did a trial and invited although elected in the area, as well as business leaders. We had over 60 people come and show up. So Larissa, if you want to start the video. we actually produced this for a lot of folks who weren't able to make it to the trial, which is incredible when you think 60 people did show up, so that they could see it in real time. And that all occurred in an afternoon. That's how fast it is. That was actually over 3 different streets in a neighborhood in Milpitas. So we're very excited to do that, to really kind of move the needle on how quickly we're able to deploy. Next slide. So I'm look forward to questions later on, and thank you for allowing me to show our latest investments.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Christine Keener from Verizon.
Thank you, Rosanne. First, I just want to say thank you to you and Larissa for putting together this amazing industry series and for bringing us all together. I'm super excited to have you, have everyone here with us to have a discussion. I'm looking forward to talking more about our community initiatives, talking about the projects we're working on, as well as technological advancements. For those of you who have not met me, my name is Christine Keener. I serve as the Director of Government and Community Affairs for Verizon. I cover a good chunk of Northern California, pretty much from the border to about Santa Barbara County is my territory. And the way that I like to talk about my job, it was like, what is government affairs? It's really to be a two-way advocate, right? It is, here are all the amazing things we're doing here at Verizon, and here are some of the important community initiatives. But I think just as importantly, it's about learning and listening and getting community insights and bringing those back into the Verizon ecosystem. We have over 105,000 employees. And so our goal is like, how do we show up very authentically into the communities we serve, whether that's deploying service, whether that's through our retail stores, whether that's through our community engagement opportunities, such as our Verizon Small Business Digital Ready program, which I will talk more about later on in this discussion, or our innovative learning schools, or how we show up for major events such as FIFA or World Cup, and how do we also make sure that we are supporting the events surrounding the events. And so that's really what we try to do, is how do we make sure we're showing up authentically into the community, but also how do we make sure that we're being everyone's first call, we're being great collaborators, and we're just making sure that we're highlighting the investments that we're making so that folks have that human aspect, that human connection into Verizon. And so what I'm looking for today is to kind of highlight some of those programs more and really talk more about it. I think as we all know, when we're here, connectivity is just not a luxury anymore, it's a necessity. And so how we talk about those is through a myriad of ways. It's through our network deployment, how we create balanced community-centric approaches, how we work with different jurisdictions, but also how do we show up in communities to make sure that their voices and their perspectives are being highlighted and that we're working together to be able to create a shared vision. I'm a true believer that in order to have shared objectives, we have to have shared realities. And so I'm excited that through this conversation, we'll be able to talk more about that and more about how we're working together to create that shared vision. So I just want to keep it short because I'm very excited. We have great questions today that Rosanne and Larissa put together that will just talk more about what we're doing, how Verizon showed up in the community.
How does your company support our small and medium-sized businesses?
I think this is an excellent question. I think during the pandemic, I think there was a proverbial black light that was shown over a lot of our communities. And one was like how to impact our small and medium businesses, especially our small businesses. And I thought we saw a lot of closures and a lot of people not being able to be resilient or competitive through a more digitized economy. And so one of the ways that we've shown up and kind of really supported our businesses, our small businesses, is through what we call a Verizon Small Business Digital Ready. And I'll put the link in the chat in a second here. But what that has done is it's been created for small businesses by small business owners. And so it's a self-paced platform to where you can have executive coaching, you can have community building sessions where we do both online and in-person community building. We have different marketing classes, and we host events through some of our different partners. Recently we had an event at Levi Stadium where we brought small businesses from all over the region to have an in-person lesson about how do you market in a digitized economy. One of the things, and not to hide the ball here, is we provide $10,000 grants every couple of cycles or quarter to be able to support small businesses. And people are like, hey, Verizon's providing $10,000 grants to small businesses. Like, is that real? Yes, it is real. And so I really encourage people to take at least one course to be able to qualify for that $10,000 grant. Currently, right now, we're also running a special kind of super fan promo, which is we're rewarding a couple of small businesses with $25,000 grant to support their businesses in partnership with the NFL. So by taking 5 courses, you'll be automatically entered into winning tickets to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, as well as winning $25,000. And so I think that's a great way for how we support our small businesses, especially BIPOC and women of businesses who oftentimes have struggled and didn't have the ability to be resilient or competitive within the market. And so this is how we feel like we can show up and really pour in both technology and access-wise, but more importantly, resources with funding to support our small businesses.
I talked a little bit earlier about our RISE program, which we're really proud of, through which we provide grants and then also technology makeovers to small businesses. And to date, over a period of time, we've supported more than 13,000 small businesses. 900 or so are in California and 6 in San Mateo County. And so we really encourage folks, if they have a wish to join up with us, to participate and take advantage of that.
Well, I'll talk about 2 ways. I would say one way AT&T is supporting our small and mid-sized business is just understanding how critical they are to the building blocks of business. And so AT&T has a program called our Global Supply Chain Supplier Diversity Program, where people are encouraged to see if they can be one of our suppliers. So I'll be sure to drop that into the chat. Because more than half of our suppliers at AT&T are considered and qualify as small businesses. And I think that is part of why a lot of our companies are members of SAMCEDA, Chamber of San Mateo County, and others, is how do we generate business not only for our companies, but those who are the backbone. And as was mentioned, we understand that those are our small and mid-sized businesses. And then looking to all of you in terms of being able to figure out where the need is. I think what was a silver lining of COVID is we received feedback from our small businesses on the changes that AT&T could make. And so I have been working on reaching out to SAMCEDA and the Chamber of San Mateo County in that they are able to invest in programs that maybe we aren't able to in terms of our funding side. But they are. So being able to use all of as a conduit, which is great when we're talking about telecommunications. And then also wanted to share, over 40% of our workforce at AT&T are union members, and wanting to make sure that we are supporting folks with a strong livable wage are things that we're trying to do to support our business community. Thanks.
I lightly touched on it before. So part of how we support the local businesses, our memberships, of course, with SAMCEDA and chambers and local organizations. But we also bring in that fiber and reduce that capital cost for businesses who want to upgrade their existing infrastructure for their communications, as well as supporting the education that is there. In addition, we work with workforce development partners. That's often an area that is really tough, especially for small businesses. And so trying to bridge that gap. And sometimes that looks like supporting educational funding at a local community college or a local workforce program. And so it's very specific. So, and that's a big part of what our Connected by Good is. It is tailored for the individual communities and tailored for the regions in which we are at. And so that's some of our focus right now in SAMCEDA.
What is something that our communities may not be aware of in your corporate philosophy as you engage locally?
One of the things that has been impressed upon me since joining AT&T is a hyper awareness of engaging locally on bringing solutions. So I mentioned our commitment to closing the digital divide across California, and how we've been doing that is partnerships. I think all of us on this call know each other, have had to work collaboratively together in how we do that, because we are seeing that it's a partnership. So since 2021, AT&T committed the $5 billion. We opened the 10 connected learning centers, and the company is committed to really putting that into perspective. That's 25 million people that we're trying to make sure have affordable high-speed internet for this upcoming decade. So I feel like maybe that is something that not everyone knows, is we want to make sure that we have kind of boots on the ground to meet the need.
And I think one of the things I lightly touched on the environmental piece and the recyclability with our new rapid technology. I think another thing that folks may not know is just how committed we are on our ESG goals. So as an example, we're already 75% of the way of becoming carbon neutral for scope 1, 2 emissions by 2025. And that by the end of 2023, that we had sourced 92% of our electricity consumption under renewable energy contracts. So all those towers that I mentioned across the country, the 40, they all are lit, as one example. And then of course, just our workforce and our buildings, our vehicles, all the things that, we really try to focus on. And every year we do an accountability report internally to see how we measure up to those metrics.
One of the things that surprised me about Comcast was that it started as a family business in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1963. And, now it's one of the largest companies in the country and one of the top 10 companies to work for. But I think that spirit of homegrown and local feeds so much of our culture and how we think about our presence in the community. Ultimately, our team members live and work in San Mateo County. We take that really seriously. We pay attention to what's happening in our communities and we want the best for them. And that really started with our founding decades ago.
I love this question. I think one of the things that I want folks kind of know about kind of our philanthropy and kind of giving is we're really focused on kind of a multi-value approach. We're really focused on how do we grow our partnerships? How do we make 1 + 1 = 5? And so one of the ways that we kind of do that is that we have an innovation lab that's based in San Francisco. And it's really kind of the hub for us of so many intersections, policy, innovation, our emerging technology, our partners. And so we use that really as a space to bring folks in to ideate, whether it's, schools, nonprofit groups who are focused on after school care, elected officials. So we would say, how do we ideate? How do we think about what are some of the societal goals that we are trying to achieve? And how do we kind of grow and build upon that? Our pillars are climate protection, human prosperity, and digital inclusion. And so the goal is we might come in and partner with one thing, but how do we expand that to multiple things? We recently had sponsored a SF Fleet Week. And so we brought in Marines who were here, Marines and sailors who were here for a period of time. We brought them to talk about what is civilian life after you served. What are the jobs that exist within Verizon? And so I think there's one way to kind of come through one door and have 4 to 5 different doors within Verizon that we can highlight you with. And so I think I want folks to kind of know about our giving is that there are so many different ways that we can partner together. And then by having conversations and by sharing those shared objectives and realities, we're able to kind of really expand how we partner with folks.
Why do each of you work for AT&T, Crown Castle, Comcast, and Verizon?
For me, it's 2 things, mission and people. The importance of connecting people and businesses to the information they need, to the people they need. It can't be overstated. And I think we, as Ellen pointed out, we learned something about that during COVID, but the truth is it's just how we live our lives. And so I love the mission of Comcast. And then the people. Some of you on this call and out in the audience know team members from across Comcast in California. It's a group of people who really care for each other, care for the communities they work in, and want to do the best. And for me, that's where I want to be.
Thank you so much. Mission and people. Ellen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I had spent, over a decade working in the public sector before joining AT&T. And when I joined the public sector, I really had wanted to help people who may not have a voice for themselves. And when I pivoted to AT&T, I really connected with our mission of connecting people to greater possibility. And I love that. I felt that was such a perfect kind of marriage between the public sector and the private, in that trying to make sure that we are helping folks wherever they are and meet them where they at. And I have seen our company go through many different iterations just in my 5+ years of the company. And I think that is something that also makes each day interesting working for AT&T. I think, people may have a question and it's a different business unit, but I'm happy to jump in, learn more. And that's what I love about working here is being able to help others, but also each day learning a little bit more about this company.
Love it. Connecting people to greater possibilities. Christine, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Similar to like Ellen, before Verizon, I used to work in the public sector. I worked for the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, as well as Rec and Park, which is exactly like the show. And I think similar to that, I think it is, and in Verizon, I think it is this bridging the communities together. And I think it's hard to outwork passionate people. And it's similar to that in public service, where I think every day I get to work with people who are very passionate about their crafts and how they serve the community. Whether that's through our Verizon emergency response team, who has shown up to wildfires or hurricanes or flooding, or providing support for first responders or EMS at large concerts, or whether it's our retail folks who are helping to answer questions for folks who might not know how to change their SIM card, or might not know that it's time to upgrade their phone. I get to work with very passionate people, and I think what's unique in our job is that we get to work kind of horizontally across all verticals. So each day is unique in that aspect, to where I can go from working on write an ordinance to going to our experiential marketing team and saying, hey, how are we showing up for the high school football event on a Friday night per se. And so I think that's what makes this job so unique, and why I'm very passionate about working with Verizon, is because I work with some of the most passionate people. And as one of the panelists mentioned, we live in the communities we serve. We go to the same churches, go to the same gas stations, the same grocery stores. So we all have a vested interest in making sure that we are, that we have a commitment to its excellence, is what we're really passionate about.
Passionate about craft, serving community. Thank you, Christine, and for highlighting that you all live and work in your communities. I think sometimes people forget that. You don't just fly in on whatever type of aircraft you fly in on and show up. You're here. You're a part of us. Rochelle?
So I got started in telecom, I can't believe, almost 25 years ago while I was still in law school. And so I've done everything from build towers in the Tahoe National Forest in my boots, looking for site selections, permitting, and then of course a lot working with local governments. So I've worked for, and I even did some time at Comcast in their tower company. So I've actually worked either directly or indirectly as a vendor for almost everybody across telecom. And then about 6 years ago, I went internal to Crown. And the reason why I did is because of the culture. And so I've had the chance to kind of see across the board, and was able to see that not only is it a culture about backbone, so even though we're physically the backbone, there's also a mentality of we support connection. We support people being connected in an urban to a suburban to a very rural environment, and also really focusing on quality of life. Because I think what's important when companies they're inward serving as well as externally serving. So we all do live in the communities, but we all also are part of a community. And so having, working for a company that wants you to make it to your kid's football game on a Friday night, that wants to make sure that you are actively involved in your community, whether you're serving on a nonprofit or whether you're, doing, Meals to Wheels delivery. And so I think that is just so important to have the passion for the connectivity from our communication standpoint, but passion for connectivity, people to people.
Love it. Live as well as be a part of the community. It's about the backbone. We support connection and quality of life. What is one thing that you want everyone to remember today?
If there was one word, it would be investment. Is help us as industries invest in your community. And that's everywhere from, the permitting is really big. That sounds small, but that is usually the biggest part besides construction alone. And that can be, a lot of folks are embracing and they want the connectivity, but letting their elected officials know that. And I think businesses being engaged and saying, yes, we do need this. Because sometimes what we'll hear is like, well, I have 4 bars. You don't need to be here. And it's great that they're connected, but their community members across town probably aren't. And so I would say that would be the best thing is, as part of a partnership and Rosanne, you're an amazing partner. So I just want to highlight that SAMCEDA is wonderful in that sense. And that would be probably one of the greatest helps.
I think just to echo Rochelle, I think Rosanne, I think you are an excellent example of a leader and a collaborator, and just how much that partnership means to, I think, all of us on this call in order to amplify our work and all of our works, especially your work as well with SAMCEDA. I think one thing I want folks to know is Verizon is a global company with a local heart. We have like I mentioned, we have a vested interest in our communities, and we aim to be, your first call, collaborators, in order to aim for a better future together. And, we're working to build that future now. And we only can do that through partnerships with our partners in the communities. And so I want folks to know that, like, yes, we are a global company, but we are local in our hearts as well.
We are continuing to invest in digital equity and connectivity and the latest innovation and technology. And that doesn't happen broadly, that happens and starts locally.
Well, I hope attendees will remember AT&T is your community partner. And today's conversation is just extending the building of our relationship. I would say AT&T also hears you. We hear your community. And I think one example that I'd like to share is when we saw earlier this spring with the loss of the Affordable Connectivity Program, that we really needed something in its place. And so AT&T has a program called Access. I'll be sure to drop it into the chat so that people can have low cost internet. We know how the partnerships with a lot of the nonprofit organizations within San Mateo County, we're working on getting people signed up for ACP. But without it, we have the Access program. We also have been working with our Native and tribal communities. And so we have been opening some of the connected learning centers that I shared earlier on tribal land, and understanding that it's not just about living in maybe more suburban places, but it's really how are we talking those rural who don't have access at all. And I know that there are places in San Mateo County that struggle with access. And so your feedback is noted, and look forward to working with you on making sure that we get out there as well. Thanks, Rosanne, for the conversation.
I am just in awe of all of you and how you have showed up today. I'm going to turn it over to one of our attendees who is also a spectacular community person in her own right, Stacy Wagner with Kaiser Permanente. Stacy has a question.
Thank you, Rosanne. And thank you all for being so inspiring and what you do beyond just the job and how you show up and support the communities we all live in. So Stacy Wagner, Public Affairs Director for Kaiser Permanente in San Mateo County. And this is not going to be a surprise to anybody that during the pandemic, we saw a surge in use of video visits and phone visits. So really just want to give you all a shout out for what you're doing to extend the reach of telecommunication services, because providing another option in lieu of coming into the office, if it's appropriate, is appreciated by, Kaiser members throughout, our footprint as well as our staff. So thank you very much.
I want to thank each of you for how you showed up today, the conversation that we had, the information that was shared. What a fabulous way to kick off our industry series, because community is about connections, and all of you do that every day in so many ways. I could not be more proud to have each of you as members of SAMCEDA for all you do every day. And just so you know, the purpose behind the industry series is really to highlight all the great things our industries are doing daily. I think sometimes that gets lost. There's a lot of noise out there, and you tend to hear more of the negative, more the complaints. And we want to showcase through the industry series the way you show up, the folks that you support, which is everyone in all of our residents and our cities in San Mateo County, all 20 in our unincorporated areas, and the way that you put yourselves out there to show you're not just an employee of AT&T, Crown, Verizon, and Comcast. You are a part of its ethos. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to our attendees, and thank you.